But let's switch tacks and talk about the WDF. The World Match Play, of course, is the PDC's second most prestigious ranking event. The World Masters is the WDF's. But as we had speculated, and as many people thought, the WDF have confirmed that there will not be a World Masters held in 2023, although they say it will return in 2024. How big of a blow is this announcement for the WDF?
Yeah, from one event, the World Match Play, that we've got just over a week before we can watch it, to another event which we're going to have to hang tight for a lot longer. The World Masters now not coming back until 2024, and we're not quite sure on a date for that either at the moment. But yeah, it is a blow, and Nick Rolls, the Secretary General of the WDF, we had him on as a guest back in February. We were talking about the World Masters, and we're hopefully going to get him back on for a chat in the next few weeks, and we'll let you guys know in advance if you want to get your questions in for that. So do keep an eye on our social media. But in the statement, he spoke about it himself, Nick, the huge disappointment at not being able to get everything signed off to get the World Masters on in 2023. And he went on to speak in that statement about long-term planning, going away from the one-year deals for these major events. The World Championship, that's now got that 3-year deal in place, and he wants to bring that same level of stability to the World Masters. And I guess the longer you leave it, the more uncertainty there is, the more talk there is going to be on social media. And it's important, I think, for any organisation that you give the players that level of transparency. They know what's going on, and the WDF, they did set that final deadline of the end of June, which was this past weekend. That was going to be when they were going to decide one way or another if the World Masters was going to go ahead this year. And the statement came out this week that unfortunately it's not going to go ahead this year, and it's a shame because it's an event which we had to wait 3 years for it to come back last year, and now we're going to get another blank year this year in tournament's history. But I think for me, looking further ahead, these next 6-12 months for the future of the WDF, I think they're hugely important, and possibly the most important in terms of their long-term future, because it's vital now that they get this next period right. They've got the World Championship in place. As I said, that's going to be happening in December at Lakeside. We're not sure on the TV coverage. The prize fund has not been confirmed for those. They've got the prices down for the tickets this year, which is a good thing, and hopefully they're going to make that a bigger success than last year. They're going to sell more tickets, make it a bigger spectacle, and really build off that going into 2024, which, as I say, I think that could be a crunch year for them to get the World Masters on. I said when we spoke about the WDF last time, for me, I'd put the World Masters on in June. Then you've got that even split across the year from their two majors, the Worlds in December, the Masters in June. So, yeah, it's very important now. Get those two events in order. They're the two events that the players that play in the WDF, they play for all year. The travelling, the hotels, the cost involved. A lot of these players, they're not professionals. They're semi-pros, amateurs. A lot of it, they pay out of their own pocket to play in these events. So it's crucial now. You get these events in place. Lakeside, you get the World Masters, which involves a lot more players from around the world. And I think just lastly, in terms of the headlines coming out of the WDF, we're seeing events under the WDF structure that not organised directly by them, but by their members, they're being cancelled. It's not a good look, and there's only so much the WDF can do, but there needs to be some good news, some positivity for the players and fans that follow the WDF to cling on to. So, yeah, as an organisation that's going to succeed, it needs to get everything in order, and I think now's a crucial time for the WDF in their long-term future. It's getting this World Masters right and getting everyone on board.
Yeah, there's tough to find positives in this. There's certainly positive routes that they can take from this, but I don't think we can find any positives in the announcement itself. The WDF got a lot of flack, and rightfully so, for the postponement of the World Championships from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, especially after they had the qualifiers late last year for those last spots, and they had the cutoff and everyone knew who was in or not. Then you find out that, that's just for an event over a year from now. And sure, the FIFA World Cup qualifiers finish a year ahead of the event, but that's because they're on a 4-year schedule. This is a 1-year schedule. And players were competing the entire year under the understanding, if not promise, that the World Championships would happen. And then suddenly they were, for all intents and purposes, canceled, and you were told, no, actually, it's a year from now. A similar thing has now happened with the World Masters. The big difference is the WDF hadn't announced the World Masters. They had, from the beginning of the year, made clear that there was something they were hoping to have on the calendar, but things were still under discussion. They were still trying to make sure everything was in play. But they kept delaying and delaying and delaying the announcement. And considering how often this pattern has replayed itself recently, there's a credibility problem that I didn't think would be developed, but I think has developed. And by I didn't think, I mean, I don't mean I didn't think it a couple weeks ago. I didn't think a couple of years ago would develop. The WDF doesn't have the credibility that I thought it would get. They have the right idea in not announcing things until they're set in stone. But they've still promised that they will announce these things, and they haven't come to fruition. And it's happened a couple times too much. For some of them, they had a valid excuse. You know, with COVID, we could not predict what would happen 3 months from now, let alone a year. And plans had to remain fluid. But we're now beyond that. Yes, COVID still exists, but it's no longer a pandemic. It's an epidemic. It is part of our life, and we can prepare with very reasonable assurances that our plans will be able to come to fruition. And the WDF still have not been able to do that. Having a 3-year plan for the World Championships, I think, is a good start. And if a few months from now, the WDF have a 3-year plan for the World Masters, then that gets back to what I said at the beginning. There are positive routes to take from this. But they're going to need something like that to make up for the credibility blow that has come between this and the World Championships over the past 6 to 9 months. They need to make sure that they have found a place, not just for 2024, but for the next few years, so that people aren't continuously asking, is this going to happen? Is this a one-off, or is this now part of this calendar? Should I be going and chasing ranking points in Latvia and Hungary and wherever else, Turkey or wherever there is an event going on that the WDF gives ranking points for? They need to be able to show that for the next few years, this is all in play. If they can do that, they have taken a positive route from this to start to build back that credibility. And if those events do end up going ahead, if the World Championships does happen in 2023 and the World Masters does happen at some point next year, then that credibility will start to rebuild itself. But they have a lot of work to do, because right now, I don't see the WDF as a credible organization, because I think this has just happened at least one, if not 2 or 3 times too many.